What's going on, everyone? So, Victor Wembanyama just gained a ton of experience by getting to the gold medal game for France. He was the leader, he was their best player. He really showed up huge, even against Team USA with the star-studded lineup. He's kind of talked about how that he's coming, right? And he really is. I mean, this guy already was spectacular last season in his rookie season. And there was just so much hype coming into the NBA for Victor Wembanyama, right? And personally, I was, not, I wouldn't say skeptical, but I was, a little cautious before crowning him, right? So many people were already like, you hear all this stuff about like, oh, he was created by God to end the Jordan and LeBron debate and all this stuff. It is just, there's just so much pressure that was put on this young man coming right into the NBA at such a young age. And to me, it's kind of like, can we let some of these guys develop a little bit before we start crowning them, superstars right out the gate, right? Because you see a lot of players that just have this expectation. More often than not, they never reach that level, right? More times than not, they're disappointing, right? And you look at what Victor was able to do. I mean, he really proved it. He really showed right out the gate. And then to follow that up with an incredible run with the Olympics and France and being the home team and the pressure that has on it. And then also getting those just high stake level environments. I mean, you're talking about a game 7 of the NBA finals each round, right? Talk about the highest level in which you can play. And he showed up time and time again, and he was massive for France. And last year, I believe, and I don't think that it's a crazy statement, but I think there was a genuine argument. Victor was a top 15 player in the league last year. He was the best defensive player in the league. And on top of being the best defensive player, he gave you 21, right? Just did everything. Rebound, defended, block shots, right? Hit threes, hit mid-ranges, literally was a 3-level scorer. His impact and it was unbelievable how good he was right out the gate. And now you add in Chris Paul in particular. I do think Harrison Barnes and some of the other acquisitions I think will help a lot. But Chris Paul, more than anybody, I think is going to be massive for Victor Wembanyama. Massive. Because last year, Victor was the best player. Not only was he the best player, but he was such a mismatch all over the basketball court. Because he's just so long and lengthy. And, we've watched him do Space Jam dunks and all kinds of crazy madness that just defy logic and physics and all of it, right? And so it was very frustrating to watch the Spurs last year as Victor would have just clear establishment and at times mismatches. I mean, there were times where he would be completely wide open, literally no one around, or, make a cut towards the basket and no one would recognize it. There was so many instances. I mean, game in and game out, not rare occasions. No, it was a regular occurrence where Victor might as well not even been on the court. He would be completely phased out at times. And I just think with Chris Paul, the Spurs aren't going to have that concern. I think with Chris Paul, he's going to recognize all those mismatches. He's going to recognize when Victor has clear established position, right? I think Chris Paul is going to get probably half a dozen assists a game just on Victor Wembanyama and lobs, right? And I think Victor, again, is going to get, 10 points a game just on Chris Paul's assists. So that's why I genuinely believe that Chris Paul's impact on Victor Wembanyama is going to be immeasurable at times, right? I just think as they continue to grow and develop that connection, right, to have a true playmaker. It's one thing to have a point guard that can make the occasional play and recognize certain things. It's another thing to have somebody that's as true of a point guard as Chris Paul, right? Who's going to be constantly looking for Victor and trying to get the best version possible of Victor. I just think that that is incredibly significant for Victor and his just development overall. Right? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's 30 plus a game next year because of Chris Paul. I mean, I think he would have been probably, 25 a game maybe, just with the natural progression. Right? You talk about a guy that was like 21 last year, right? So I think he can't just in year 2 average 4 more points a game. I think would be a little silly, but I think you add in Chris Paul again. I think you're going to see some more monster games because Chris Paul's going to recognize all those things. Right? He's going to make things so much easier for Victor. And I just think you start stacking up the just year 1 experience plus the Olympic experience plus year 2 experience plus Chris Paul and what he's going to do and how easy he's going to make things for Victor. I genuinely believe that he's arguably top 10 next year. And I don't think that that's that far-fetched. Again, there was an argument for him to have one Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think he should have. I mean, he was the best defensive player by every metric. And literally, I don't care that he was a rookie. I don't care that he was, that he didn't earn his stripes or whatever excuses you hear. The whole point of Defensive Player of the Year is supposed to go to the best defensive team. I understand Minnesota was best defensive player. I understand that Minnesota was the best defensive team. And more times than not, that's usually where the award goes to, right? Like even Marcus Smart. Everyone was like, Marcus Smart, yeah, he's not the best defensive player, but Boston Celtics' defense was so good that year, and he was the anchor to that defense. It's like, let's give it to him. Same thing with Rudy, I felt this year. Right? Minnesota's defense was so good this year, and Rudy was the anchor to that defense, so it was like, let's give it to him. But it's an individual award. It's not a team award, right? If you want to give a trophy for the best defensive team, fine. But for the best defensive player, I mean, if it wasn't Anthony Davis last year, it should have been Victor Wembanyama. Because, I mean, the only other person that was anywhere close to Victor was Anthony Davis. Right? So, again, you're talking about him and his defensive impact. And then if he could be a 25 to 30 point a game player, he would be a top 10 player. Right? Obviously, he needs to be better efficiency and he needs to just grow and develop. But I think that comes. I think that comes with just natural progression. And I think it comes with Chris Paul. Right? Like Victor, again, he's going to be at times probably like 9 of 9 from the field early on because it's just a heavy dose of Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama pick and roll and, just lobs to Victor. It's just, Victor, I think, is going to have such an easy time. And I think he's going to be much more efficient. I think he's going to be better suited. I think he's going to have more confidence. I think he's going to have more stride, more pep in his step, whatever you want to call it, right? And I just think that that's going to really go a long way. Now, could he potentially move in a top 5 status, something like that? That, I think, is a little tough, right? I'm not willing to go that far, right? This is a discussion, so, I always pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Do you think Victor can move to a top 5? But I think I think there was a real, genuine argument that he was top 15 last year. And so to think that he can't move into the top 10, or even just like maybe like 11th or something like that, I don't think is that far-fetched. I think it's a genuine thought that could very well, it might not even be an argument, right? It might clearly be like, oh no, he's definitely a top 10 player, right? Like, I think that there's enough evidence even last year where you could argue some of those points, right? I just think, it didn't really translate to a ton of winning. So it's like, it's tough for me to put him in the top 10, but if they're like a legit playoff team or like competing for a playoff spot and Victor is, whatever, if he's 28, 8 and 5 with 3 blocks or 4 blocks a game and defensive player of the year and all that. Like, I don't know how you can't put him in the top 10. I don't know how you can't. I'm really excited for this season. I'm really excited to see the progress and just the growth and development that Victor shows and kind of the strides and leaps that he takes. Where do the Spurs end up falling in kind of the pecking order of the NBA and whatnot? I think it's going to be an excellent season for him. I think it's going to be a good season for the Spurs. Again, I don't think that the Spurs are a contender or anything like that, but as far as like getting into the playoffs and gaining some experience and, you know, some momentum for future seasons, I definitely think is a possibility. But like I said earlier, as always, this is a discussion. Pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? And Phil, what are your thoughts? Do you think what do you think Victor's kind of ceiling this season is? Like realistic ceiling. I mean, because obviously you could go, oh, he's the best player. You'll be the best player in the league. No, unless he wins a championship this year, I don't think I can go that far. But you know, I do think top 10, which would in year 2 be ridiculous if he was to move into the top 10 year 2. I don't think that's unrealistic. I don't think that that's a reach. I don't think that that's, you know, delusion. I don't think it's anything. I think that that's a very real reality. But how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.